Hey everyone, my name is Barry, and in this video I'm going to teach you guys how to make unique cards for your card game, and also how to make a card flip animation when we're drawing our cards from our deck that you can see on screen now. If this is the first video in the series that you've stumbled upon, then I'll leave the link to the playlist at the top of the description where you can find the 5 other tutorials that we've made so far. If you're subscribed, please consider doing me a huge favour and turn on those notifications just to tell the YouTube algorithm that you like me and you want to see more of these kind of videos. So we're going to get started on adding those unique cards. If we open up our deck script from before and we look at this player deck variable that we have, which is an array of strings, you can see that we have knight in there 3 times. But with the code currently, it doesn't matter what we put in here, it's just however many elements there is in here is however many cards will be instantiated. That's what our code is currently doing. So I want more than just knights to be in the deck, so I'm going to change one of these elements to say archer, and I'm going to change another one to say demon. Now we need somewhere to store unique information about each of these cards, so I'm going to come down here into the file system and I'm going to create a new script. I'm just going to right click on my scripts folder, create new script, and we'll just call this card database. Then we can open that new script up and delete absolutely everything in here. We don't need any of it, including the extends node. And here we can create a new constant called cards, and this is going to be our dictionary containing all our cards information, and constant because this data is not going to change during the game. The keys are going to be a string and the name of the card, so for the first one I'm going to say knight, and then we'll put a colon and then empty square brackets. Then we'll throw a comma at the end and we'll duplicate this line a couple times and make sure for the last entry that you do not have a comma. And I said in the deck we have an archer and a demon card, so I'm going to define those here. And I'm going to throw a comment up here just so we know the order of the integers we're about to put into the array. And now we can give these cards some data, so I'm going to put attack and health values for the knight, archer and the demon. And now if we go back to the deck script, we can get a reference to our card database to use those values when we are instantiating our cards. So I'll create this new variable card database reference up at the top of the deck script, and then in the ready function we will assign that reference. And since it hasn't been instantiated in and doesn't exist in the scene tree anywhere, we're going to have to load it in, so we need to get the path. So we can come down here into the file system, right click on our card database script, copy path and paste it here, and then we'll use the preload function to load it in, and then don't forget to surround the path itself with quotes. And now down here in the draw card function, we can actually use that card database information to set the attack and health of the card, but we don't yet have anything to set it on, so we're going to create a new rich text label on the card. So we're going to go over to the card scene, and we'll right click on the root card, and we'll add a new child node, and we'll add a rich text label. We'll call this first rich text label attack, and then we'll duplicate it and call the second one health. Let's click into the 2D view up here. And with the attack rich text label selected, I'm going to go over to the inspector and search for the property position. And I'm just going to set the X and Y position so that the rich text label is down at the bottom left of the card. And I'll also set the position of the health rich text label as well to put it down in the bottom right. Another property I'm going to change is scale, which I'm going to set to 2 for the attack and health rich text labels. I'm also going to set their text properties to 0, just as a default value for now. I'm also going to search for the modulate property, which can change their color, and I'm going to set that color to black. If we give this a run now, we're going to see that our cards do in fact have health and attack values when they spawn in. Now we just have to change those values when we instantiate the cards. Now, back here where we left off in the deck script, I'm going to say new card.get node, and in here I'm going to put attack, which is the name of our first rich text label, and we're going to set the text, which we defaulted to 0 in the inspector, equal to, and this is where we can use the value that we set in our card database. So we're going to get that reference we created earlier, card database reference, and we're going to go dot cards, which is the name of our dictionary. You can see in here. Keep in mind that our first value is the attack and our second value is the health. And how we access those values, if you come back here into the deck script, we have cards, and then we're going to have square brackets and put our key, which is knight, and then we're going to put more square brackets and we're going to put either 0 for the first value, which is the attack, or 1, which is the second value for health. So we're going to put 0. And now we have knight hard coded there, which we don't want. We have that as our key, but we want our key to be passed in, and card drawn here is going to be the first element of player deck. So we're just going to replace knight with card drawn. And now we'll duplicate this line, and we'll this time be getting the health node, and we'll be setting it to not the first element but the second element of that array. So we'll be putting a 1 at the end here. And we'll give that a run now to see if it works, and we'll click on the deck. And we get an error here because we're trying to set our text to an integer instead of a string. So if we just wrap this with string here and also down below, it should work. And you can see now if we give this a run and we click on the deck that we are getting unique cards with attack and health being drawn from the database, which is amazing. And the only thing left to do really is to add unique images for the cards. One quick thing I'm going to do just before that, just because it's fun and easy, I'm going to come up here to the ready function and I'm going to say player deck redistribute.shuffle, and that function will randomize those elements in the array. So now instead of drawing the knight, then the archer, then the demon, then the knight again, it'll be randomized. Now to work on those unique images, I'm going to come down here where we instantiate the cards, and I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to call it card image path, and I'm going to set it equal to, and then use the string function. And then I'll come down here into my file system and I'll find my knight card, which I'm currently using, and I'm going to just right click it, copy path, and then I'm going to come back and paste it into this string function we have here. And don't forget to surround it with quotes. Then we're going to get rid of the part that says knight, just the word knight, so it's not hard coded. Then I'm going to put 2 more quotes in here, so the assets part and the PNG parts are different strings. Then I'm going to add a plus in here, and I'm going to come up to the card drawn variable, and I'm actually going to just rename this card drawn name, because that's what it is. It's taking the first element of the array of player deck, which is the name of a card, so it might make it a little easier to follow. And then down here, wherever we had card drawn before, I'm just going to replace this with card drawn name. And then down here where we have our plus that we just did, we're going to put our variable card drawn name, and then another plus to get the other part then of the path and connect them together. So now instead of being hard coded, it's looking for in the assets folder for the card drawn name.png, so like knight.png, or if demon was drawn, it'll look for demon.png. So now that we have a path to the image we want to set, we actually have to set the image. So we're going to get the new card, we're going to do .getNode, get the card image, and we want to set the texture equal to, and then we want to use the load function, and then we put in our card image path. If we play this now, you can see that it works, but it's only able to get the knight image, and the other images don't exist yet. We haven't actually put them into our project, so they're gonna throw an error. So just to make it a little clearer, I'm going to add card just before the .png here, and then in my file system, I'm going to change knight to knight card, just the name of it, just so any other assets that we bring in, we can call them like demon card, knight card, and it's obvious what's going on. Then I'm going to import my demon and archer assets that I've prepared earlier, make sure they're called archer card and demon card. And now you'll see when I run this that we can hit the deck 4 times and we will load our 4 unique cards, and their attack and health and everything will be updated, which is perfect. So now that that's finished, we can move on to doing the card flip effect. I'm going to come into the card scene and I'm going to right click on the root card, and I'm going to create a child node, and I'm going to add an animation player. Now it'll open the animation window, and if we come down here we can create a new animation, pressing that animation button, and we'll call it card flip. And now we want to create a new sprite 2D because we want to make the back of the card. So I'm going to add a sprite 2D as child of card, and I'm going to call it card image back. We're doing this because we're working in 2D, so we can't actually flip the card over, so we're just going to create the illusion that we're flipping the card. The Z index of card back image is probably going to be 0 by default, and we want the card to by default show the back of the card first, so we want that to render over the card image. So we're going to set card image's Z index to -1. And then we want to set the actual texture of card back image. If you have the back of a card texture, you can use it here. I'm lazy, so I'm just going to use my deck image, which looks like the back of a card. And now by default, we also want these numbers here, this attack and health, these labels to not be visible. So I'm going to go ahead and select them, and I'm going to look at the modulate. I'm going to search for the modulate in the inspector properties, and I'm going to set the alpha to transparent. Then we're going to set this as a keyframe. So you can see this little key button here. And if I press it, and if you don't see that key button, make sure you're down here in the animation tab at the bottom. We're going to go ahead, press the key. It'll ask us if we want reset tracks. We can just press create with that ticked. And we're going to do the same for health as well by setting its modulate to transparent and hit that keyframe. Then we're going to select card back image, and we're going to look for its scale property. I'm going to hit the keyframe button here as well because I want the scale to start at 1 for the animation. And I'm also going to search for Z index, and I'm going to hit keyframe on that as well. That's all from card image back, but now from card image, we're also going to set a keyframe for the scale and for the Z index. Now that we have keyframes of all the properties that we want to adjust during the card flip animation, we're going to go down here, hold Control and scroll in to zoom in. And here we'll drag the timeline bar and we'll drag it across to 0.1. Then we can come up here to card back image and we'll set its transform scale to 0.1 on the X. And we'll do the same for card image. Make sure to click this unlink button so you can adjust the X and Y values separately. We want to make sure the Y is 1 and X is 0.1. Now hit the keyframe button on scale for both card back image and card image to set those keyframes. At this point in our card flip animation, we also want to set the card image to visible and the card back image to render under it. So we're going to go to the Z index of the card back image and set it to -1, and then hit the keyframe button to set that, and then go to the card image, set the Z index to 0, hit the keyframe button. Now if you drag this timeline bar back to the start of the animation and pull it forward slowly, you can see that our animation is shaping up. We just have to set a second point for our keyframes now when the card is flipped over to reset the scale. So I'm going to drag this timeline bar first of all to 0.2, and then I'm going to go to the card back image and I'm going to search for scale, and I'm going to set the X scale to 1, and I'm going to do the exact same thing for the card image, and I'm going to hit keyframe on both of those. Now if we take a look at our animation, it's looking good. The only thing left to do is to turn the text from transparent to visible. So now I'm going to hold control and just scroll in just to zoom in a bit closer, and I'm also going to make this window bigger so we can see what we're doing. And I'm going to take this timeline bar and I'm going to put it around 0.15, and it's not actually letting me put it there because our snap is set to 0.0333 here at the bottom. I'm just going to set that to 0.01, and now it's going to let us put the timeline bar on around 0.15. And this is the point that I want to start fading the text in. So I'm going to go to the attack, I'm going to look for modulate, and I'm going to set the modulate. It's still transparent, that's fine. I'm just going to hit the keyframe button, and I'm going to do the same for health. And now I'm going to move the timeline bar to 0.2, which is the end of our animation when the card is fully scaled back up. And I'm going to select the attack and health, and I'm going to go over to the modulate and set its alpha from transparent back to fully visible. And then I'll hit keyframe on both of those. And that's our animation fully complete. So now the only thing we have to do is play it in the code. So now if we head back to our deck script, and we go back to the bottom where we are instantiating the cards, we want to play this animation from here. So we're going to get the new card dot get node, then we want to get that animation player node that we added, and then we want to call the play function, and we want to pass in the name of our animation that we created, which is card flip, or whatever you called it. If you click the animation player, you can see it down here, this animation you created. So now if we hit play, we can test if this works, and when we click the deck, you can see that the cards flip when they're instantiated, that animation plays, and they're added into our hand, which is amazing. And this will be able to be reused, this card flip animation, if, say, we have a multiplayer game where you can't see the opponent's cards and then they play something on the field, we could have the card flip over, or maybe an opponent reveals a card in their hand. We can use this card flip animation in multiple different places. But anyway, that's everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found it helpful, please consider dropping a like. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please drop them in the comments, because I originally had 6 videos for this series planned in my head, and then a few others like multiplayer. So from here on out, I'll probably just be covering requests. If you want to subscribe for future tutorials and devlogs, make sure to hit that notification button and turn your notifications to all, so the YouTube algorithm knows that you like me and you want to see my videos. Thank you very much.